Guys, we have a poster promo. Yes, we do. That's right, Tom. Special release for our 100th episode of Talkville and the 100th episode of Smallville. It is a badass new poster from a talented designer who's worked on other posters with us before at Mike Posters on Instagram. Go there. You're going to flip out. You'll want one of these, and then you'll bring it to us to get signed at some convention. It's incredible. You can pick up your copy at shop.talkvillepodcast.com or by heading to the link in our description.
If you're a fan of Smallville, this is something you're absolutely going to love. I'm already ordering one myself, so check it out.
Yeah, check this out, guys. It's an amazing poster. I have one, and I might sign it for myself. Welcome back to Talkville. Guys, come on, let's just get right into it. I mean, for God's sakes, we've got a huge episode today.
What number is it?
This is number 100. 100, Tom. We've gotten to 100 episodes.
So that's 100 episodes in the podcast too, right?
Yeah. I mean, that would be 100, yes.
I'm just doing the math in my head.
Yeah, well, you nailed it. Guys, we couldn't do this without you. Please join Patreon because you're the reason we've gotten to 100 episodes. So if you want to support the show, consider it like a streaming service. And if you want to give back, Patreon, patreon.com/Talkville, and keep this sucker going. And top tiers get their names shouted out. They get to ask questions. There's a bunch of stuff, and it's a big family, and we really appreciate you. And we're going to be in New Jersey for the Smallville Con coming up in October. It's going to be great. Go to my Instagram, @the Rosenbaum, and the link tree, cameos, cons we're going to be at. So I really appreciate it. And also, got to promote my book. Please pre-order it on Amazon. It's called The Talented Farter. It's a sound book. It's all my farts. It's great for kids. It's beautiful illustrations. I think you're really going to love it. So hopefully you'll support me and grab a book. They're like $20 on Amazon. And I appreciate it. And also, thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining us. Ryan, 100 episodes.
Don't
Tom,
you mean stank you very much?
Thank you very much. And if you didn't get a chance to call on our hotline and leave a question, all that and more is in the show's description, and you can do that and follow us and write a review, and it really helps the show. And it's up to you. The show is as good as its listeners, and if you guys support us, and then we'll keep ticking. This is a great episode. We got great guests on this episode, so let's just get into it. Without further ado, let's get into season 5, episode 12, Reckoning. We're very excited. You know him. You love him. We talk to him. I call him in the middle of the night. He has nightmares about this show because he's always answering his phone, and his wife's like, stop answering them. But he's one of the creators of, Miles couldn't make it, but Al Gough is here. Al, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
I just want to start off with saying I'm not happy with you right now.
Why is that?
Because I'm jealous. Well, I'm just jealous, and jealous is a negative. I'm going to talk to my therapist about this.
Yeah,
I told him. I said I'm coming to you live from Venice, Italy, because Beetlejuice opens at Venice Film Festival tomorrow.
How excited are you about that? By the way,
it's super exciting. Like, it's one of those crazy things you never think is going to happen. So, so it's been fun.
I know with your success with Wednesday and Beetlejuice and season 2 with Wednesday, and it's awesome to see you're doing so many things. But it's like, you think you get one of the biggest hit shows ever, Smallville, and you go, that's enough.
That would be enough.
That's enough, but it's not. You're the most insatiable guy I know.
When is it not going to be enough for you, Al?
Yeah.
When is it not going to be enough?
What it is? When money comes out of his shower head, that will be enough.
But this is the thing about Al. I really, and I mean this. I don't think that's your motivation. You're such
he
a
loves
creative
what he does.
person.
No,
I mean, he loves
I'm
money.
not just saying this because we're on a podcast. It's not about the money. Like, listen, we all need to do our deals and this and that. You are not motivated by money.
No, but he loves money, Al. Don't lie. Go ahead.
Yeah, but he's going to premiere in like 5 minutes, and he's wearing the same T-shirt and hat.
Well, he's going to change.
You know what I mean?
Al, talk to us.
I am wearing a tux. I promise you.
Okay,
so,
good.
Yeah.
Please send us a picture.
Oh, we will.
Yeah. Well, look, we just want to get into this right away. We're doing Reckoning. It's the 100th episode. We have to have you. We also have someone else coming on after this. And
you might know him.
Was this important to you, too, that the 100th episode had to be big? It had to be...
It was, yeah, the 100th episode, I mean, also back in old time television, as you guys remember, 100 episodes was a huge deal. Like that meant your show, that's usually like, that was the magic number for syndication. That was the magic number. We never thought it would go on for another 100 after that, 100 plus. And so this was a huge deal. And Miles and I knew that this would be the episode that Jonathan died. John Schneider didn't know that until we told him at the beginning of the season. Not very happy. So, and oddly, I think Kristen was kind of annoyed that she didn't die in that episode, but
she wanted to die.
I think she wanted to die at that point.
Yeah.
But no, it was a crucial thing. And, you know, it's such a huge part of the Superman lore. It felt like, you know, Clark, you know, obviously the show was about him growing up and his family. So what is it that, you know, a huge milestone where, you know, you lose a parent, but we also wanted to do it in a way that, you know, we knew it from the comics and from the movie and everything. And how do we do it? And how do we make it this kind of Faustian bargain with Jor-El? You know, it's always like, you know, this show is really about, you know, parents and children, fathers and sons. You know, and I by the way, I just rewatched it. So it's good. It's really good. Beeman directed the hell out of it. It's Tom, you're fantastic. Michael, you're fantastic. That I love that scene with you and Lana. Like when she said yes to the you know thing, and then you were drunk, and then just the turns in that scene were all fantastic. I mean, they're really fantastic.
So what I really liked is the fact that Lionel was a part of Jonathan's heart attack. That's not in that's you guys, right? Like that's not in the comics, right? Yeah.
What you'll find out, and it's funny because I wasn't sure if you found out on this episode or you find out down the road, is that he's tied to Clark's adoption. Like who could cover up, who could fake an adoption? Like that. I mean, our joke was always, Smallville was Superman with paperwork. Like you had to explain all the shit like that just was like taken for granted. Like they just, the spring rolled around and Martha had a kid and everybody was cool with it. It's just, the meteor shower covered his entrance into the atmosphere. All of these things that we were trying to kind of put some, I'll call it reality, but certainly reality for our world. And one was, who is the person who could help Jonathan and Martha fake an adoption? And that was, so Jonathan had made, again, he'd made a Faustian deal with the devil, with Lionel. And then, Tom, in order to save Lana, Clark makes a deal with Jor-El. And I totally forgot about the Lois fake out, which was good. You know what I mean? Like there are certain things in that episode that I forgot. Though the most 2005, 2006 about that episode has to be the James Blunt song in the teaser. That was, which I think works great. And I love that it's funny because I remember it was snowing, and I always loved that we played the seasons as we were shooting because it just gave it a reality. And I thought Kristen was fantastic. Like she's just really,
you know, Al, you said something that I just have to respond to. You said how this show is about father and sons. It's about this and that. But if in the beginning, John Glover, you weren't sure if he was going to, how many episodes? It became sort of a Lex Lionel.
Here's what we figured out. And we figured it out. And that's why John, thank God, came and was a guest star in season 1. Because he was, I think, remember at the time he was doing a show on Broadway.
Yeah.
We could get him.
Yep.
He'd fly out Sunday afternoon, shoot Monday, fly back Monday night. And, because he had to be, on the show on Tuesday. But I think what we found was, I would say in the pitch, it was puberty with superpowers. But then I think as we got into the first season, we realized like, oh, it's really it's about extreme parenting. It's the Kents and the Luthers.
And that's what it came about. Yeah.
And that's really what it was about. And when you look at the episodes, even like something like Memorial, which was really a deep dive where you saw for a minute that Lionel loved Lex. And then once, Lex, you took the, once Lex took the fall for his mother killing his brother, we like to be super subtle and non-Shakespearean in the show. But but you saw like there was a break there. And I think, here it's you see, the lengths that even Jonathan Kent, who is the salt of, as you say in the show, the salt of the earth farmer, would make, certain deals with the devil. What I do find funny about Jonathan, just watching this episode, I was like, he would have lasted 3 minutes in the Senate because he would have like thrown a punch at somebody and that would have been the end of it. I'm like, wow, I was like, geez, Jonathan, just, maybe dial it back a little bit, but I would maybe not start with a fist to the face.
Yeah.
But I thought he was, and the other thing too, which is interesting, is I do think part of the reason, Lex goes down the road he goes down is because Jonathan Kent, a guy who would give everybody else a second chance, he made his mind up about Lex in the first episode of the show.
Yeah.
And he never changed it. And I think that that lack of empathy for Lex is one of the reasons that he, that like, you know what I mean? Because when Jonathan would do that, it's like, it always made Clark suspicious. Like he set a tone again, because he knew the deal we find out he made with Lionel, and he doesn't trust Lionel, nor should he. But we say it all the time, it's the sins of the father. So it's...
Well, you guys wrote one of the best lines in the history of the show, which is, "You were right about me all along, Mr. Kent. I am the villain.
I am the villain of the story."
That's the best. Oh, by the way, I like that you didn't milk it or sugarcoat it. When he dies, he just looks at his wife and he looks at Clark and he dies. He doesn't sit there and go, "I love you. You've always been a great son." You could have hoked it up a little bit, and you didn't. It was very subtle.
And I think I will say, I think a lot of that credit goes to Greg Beeman as well. So I think Michael, I'm sure those takes existed. And I think we got to a very simple, because, you don't want it to be too.
It was just perfect. It was so abrupt, but he just looked at his loved ones, smiled, half smiled, and then just died. And it was like, because I bet there was something written where it was like, "Clark, listen to me. You take care of your mother, and you do this, and you're a good boy, and Martha, you're always the love of my life." And it could have been so cheesy, and it probably would have worked in a way, but this really hit me. It really hit me.
Yeah. No, it was. I remember we screened that episode at the Warner's Theater on the lot in the Steve Ross Theater, and it for the post people there, for anybody who wanted to come and see it. Fans,
that would have been fun.
On the lot. Yeah,
I didn't. I missed my invite.
They didn't. I'll be honest with you. I didn't see it. I saw it before. They had done it in an afternoon. It was literally like an afternoon thing. It wasn't. It was like a invited thing. I think it's because it was the 100th episode. Because as you recall, we had the big party up in Vancouver for the.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Everything really. There was even some. At the funeral, where you see Lex just standing there, one shot, and you see the distance. It's not like a real close up. It's just he's you could feel the distance between him and Clark, but he's there out of respect. He's there, but he's not there. You know what I mean? It was just like you could sense there.
He's not invited, that's for sure. That's that comes across. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're watching and I think, it's interesting with this season is you are definitely, which again was planned, as you see the rift between Clark and Lex, and it's sort of getting to the point where it's irreparable. So I think that's, something that's, again, when you have the luxury of a long running show, you're able to do these things and play them out. So I think that's why. I also think it's an incredibly satisfying episode because it's the 100th, because you've been living at that, with literal, 4.5, almost 5 years, and so these are characters that you've seen every week, and you have grown with them and watched all of their, the highs and the lows of their journey, and then to get to this point. So there's so much. It's a great. I think it packs extra emotion just by dint of the fact that it's, you're 100 episodes in, and then you are taking a really big key player off the table.
Yeah, but you know what I also think, I'm surprised that you told Schneider in the beginning of the season that he's going to die, because most people would wait until like a certain episode so they could, not. But you told him early, and why did you do that? If you could change things, would you have told him later?
No, because I think it's such a, when you're writing somebody out of the show, you know what I mean? And he's been there since day one. I think you owe them that. And you say, here's what we're doing this season. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously he was paid for the rest of the season, and he pops up in a few flashbacks and stuff in season 5. And then, but it's a big deal. And you have to let somebody, I think, emotionally prepare for that.
Was he mad?
Yeah, he was not happy. He was not happy about it.
Well, look, can I just say this real quick? We just did a panel in Tampa, and I mean, people can watch it. John spoke openly that he was mad.
He was mad.
I don't want to.
What did he say?
Put any pressure on you.
Do you remember what his temperament was?
No, I remember frankly, Beeman was on the ground, so he can probably tell you more. But I think he was, something to the kid of, you're taking, food out of my kid's mouth. It's that kind of stuff. Because, as we know about John, he's a very passionate guy. And I get it, but also Jonathan Kent dies in the Smallville lore, so it was it wasn't like a huge spoiler alert. It was coming at some point, and and I think it was, the 100th episode was and the episode itself, it was an elegant, respectful way, and it twisted what you would have normally read in the comics, so that there's a lot of culpability all around between Clark, between Lionel, and all of the, emotions. Because what's interesting, and I hadn't thought about it again until watching it. It was like, oh, by the middle of the episode, you're like, oh, everybody's great. Like, you could end the series right now. You know what I mean? Jonathan's elected. Clark's going to get married. Lex is clearly going to go off and be evil. And then it all turns and it all goes back to.
Well, it's such beautiful tragedy. I mean, there he is at the apex. Everything's great. And then Lionel shows up. And then, like, I think everyone was surprised when he was like, huh, what I mean? Like, I think it was a great surprise that you guys did.
As much as you could blame Lionel, it was going to happen sooner.
No, it was going to, because again, he had made the deal with Jor-El to save Clark in season 3,
right,
which started his heart condition. So we had seeded things in that we knew would pay off. And I mean, the other thing too, though, I got to say, the car crashes on this show are spectacular. I mean, that was a spectacular car crash. I mean, it just always reminds me, like, the stunt team and
incredible.
Just incredible. Like, night with a school bus. I'm like, holy crap. I mean, that thing.
Why doesn't he then tell Lana the truth again, but says, look, you can't go to Lex's because you're going to die. So, and why did you ever think of him saying, okay, he'll tell her again, but he'll protect her this time? Or, you know what I mean? Because
it's too easy.
I think it's too easy. I think it's fair. But I do think it's something of, you don't want to. I think anytime you're playing with time, and Jor-El says, the universe has a way of correcting itself, which again,
right.
You save Lionel, you say, so it's like something was going to happen. So if he had saved her, by the way, he could have done that, and his father still would have died. You know what I mean?
And it was the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of Lana and Clark. I think that was it.
Yes.
Once he made the decision he didn't want to tell her, that was it.
And I also think for Clark it was, and he says it, like, I think he says it to Chloe, or somebody, he says, like, she knew my secret, and within 24 hours, like, somebody's always going to be after her. So I think part of it was sort of a nobly, it was a noble moment of him going, she could handle it, but somebody's always going to come after me, and it's going to try. So if it wasn't today, it'll be next week or next year or something.
I got
at some point. Yeah. So I think for him, he was like, he had to push it all. He sort of knowingly had to, blow up that relationship.
You were absolutely right that this season is the best season, because I've almost forgotten about the Freak of the Weeks. I'm like, the story is I mean, it's like a driving force. These characters, it's just a different season. And, I
don't think you've had a bomb this season yet, Mike. I don't think you've given a Rosenbaum
even Lockdown, I gave a half a rose to, and I think that was a great episode, but but most of the episodes are good. There's a couple of bombers, Thirst was one of the worst shows in history. But other than that,
there's literally always a couple where even I'm just like, oh God, what were we thinking? It's weird. Yeah.
But this, now let me ask you this. Is the rest of the season just as strong?
I think it is just as strong. But I do think it takes a turn because it's Clark kind of going through grief and, and you sort of, Lex obviously turns up the heat as well. So it gets, I think it definitely takes a turn after this one. So,
listen, this has been awesome. We could honestly keep you here for a whole episode. That's how great it is. But
please, I want to see a picture of you in a tux.
Yes,
you will.
We're going to keep you. We're going to want you. No matter how big you get, you're still going to come back to Smallville. Because remember, always hold on to Smallville. Okay,
I know.
We love you. Give Miles our love, and thank you so much for being here. We love you. Talkville is brought to you by Factor. Let me tell you about Factor, guys. I've been using Factor for a while now, and let me tell you, I'm saving money. I'm not using all these delivery services and wasting tons of cash every day. I don't have to go to the grocery store. I don't have to get a bunch of stuff that I don't eat and waste more money. I get delicious meals sent by Factor every week, made to my likings. Sweater weather pairs perfectly with savory fall foods, but with your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way you'd like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do the shopping and the chopping to bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. All of their meals are dietitian approved, so you know you're getting the nutrition you need along with the fall flavors you crave.
When it comes to meals, everyone wants the same thing, options. That's why Factor offers 35 wholesome meals every week, including Gourmet Plus, Keto, Calorie, Smart, Vegan, and Veggie. So you'll always find something you love that suits your lifestyle.
This fall, you've got a lot going on outside the kitchen. Keep your plans and turn to Factor. They deliver fresh, nutritious, chef-prepared meals ready to eat in just 2 minutes. I'm telling you, it's so easy and delicious, and you're going to save money. It's incredible how inexpensive these meals are. Choose from 6 meal preferences, including keto, calorie smart, and vegan, plus veggie, and round out your order with nutrient-rich smoothies. They're so good. I love those. Snacks and energy shots to keep you satisfied all day long. Head to factormeals.com/talkville50 and use code talkville50 to get 50% off your first month and 20% off your next month. That's code talkville50 at factormeals.com/talkville50 to get 50% off your first month plus 20% off your next. Reckoning, January 26, 2006. Greg Beeman, my favorite of all time. Last episode, directing until season 9, writers Kelly Souders and Brian Peterson, who I love. Guest star Terrence. Great writing, by the way. Terrence star, I know a lot of times Kelly and Brian have written stuff that I'm like, episodes where I'm not quite. But this is one where they just knocked it out of the park on every level. And it shows you how great writers are. I mean, you're not always going to write wonderful episodes like this, but they're great. Guest star Terrence Stamp is the voice of Jor-El. Synopsis: just as soon as Clark is ready to take the next step in his relationship with Lana, is forced to make the most difficult decision in his life: unknowingly sacrifice someone he loves. Whoa.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. I think this episode speaks for itself. I think we should just go for the call-in questions.
I think it's a great idea, but I think why don't we, Bryce probably won't like that.
No, Bryce wouldn't like that.
The episode opens with Clark, Lana, and James Blunt. Clark is nervous about his mystery winter date that he's prepared to win Lana back over. They go to the caves. Clark whips out the spaceship key. They teleport to the Fortress of Solitude. And as Lana's jaw is dropped, and it's it's amazing watching Lana experience all this. Clark reveals his extraterrestrial origins and superpowers by fly jumping into the air shortly after she starts putting the pieces together and how many times he saved her. But Clark stops her short before she remembers her parents' accident when he drops down on one knee and he proposes. Finally, Clark has revealed his secrets to Lana after 100 episodes. Also, how could Lana say no to this proposal? That would be a long, silent teleport back to Kansas.
So can I just jump in real quick? Because I love how quickly we're doing this, because I think this episode speaks for itself. It just occurred to me, though, that the character that I played, the show revolves around my character. The show revolves around your character. Kristen had to play a character where she really had to somehow stay in the pocket with both of us with really nothing going on for herself. And I just want to give some credit to Kristen about like doing the heavy lifting, if you know what I mean.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. She was wonderful. Everybody was wonderful in this episode. Back in the farm, Clark gives his father an early election gift by sharing the news about proposing to Lana, revealing everything about his powers. And after catching them earlier during the season in the Walk of Shame, they're not too surprised and underwhelmingly congratulate him. Why'd you do that? The Talon, Lois provides product placement for Ding Dongs as Lana comes by, still shell-shocked, to offer help for the Kent campaign. I like just seeing her kind of like perplexed and going, oh my God, all this stuff going on in her mind. Lois notices something wrong and offers some sage wisdom for being with the honorable Clark Kent. And Clark heads to the Daily Planet to tell Chloe the big news and about the proposal. Amidst a random outburst during a wonder in the newsroom, Chloe calms down Clark's concerns about the secret being shared, while also learning that Clark is still waiting for Lana's answer to the proposal. Yikes.
After Lois's advice, Lana heads to the Kent farm. After being proposed to on Hoth, she tells him her decision on the snowy farm. She said yes to the mess. She said yes, guys.
Yes.
Wedding bells sound in Clark's head and the two embrace. What could possibly go wrong now?
Oh, I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, literally, the series could end right here.
Yes, it really could. By the way, Jonathan and Martha go to the Talon, and they're interrupted by news that Jonathan Kent has defeated Lex Luthor. Again, it's like, oh my gosh, what could go wrong? The Kents are celebrating with the town of Smallville. Lex is tying one on alone in his office. That is until he calls Lana over, as if the validation that Smallville hates him wasn't enough. Lex finds out that he has also lost Lana to his full-haired nemesis Clark Kent. And this is kind of the breaking point for Lex as he goes on to rant about being the shoulder to cry on for years with her Clark issues, which I don't know if that's true. And that wasn't that often. After Lana stays 10 toes down and defends Clark, Lex snaps and gets a little aggressive, causing Lana to flee Luthor Mansion. And as she drives back frantically, she calls Clark, revealing that Lex knows something. And speak of the devil, looking to add drunk driving to his assault that night, Lex is seen tailing Lana and honking to get her to pull over. And then she loses sight.
That always works, by the way.
Yeah, no, not a good idea. She loses sight of a school bus and, with no regard, including Lex, Clark super speeds to the scene and emotionally breaks down as he pulls his dying bride-to-be from the wreck. Obviously, she gets killed. What the hell? Pretty crazy stuff. And you're like, what is going to happen now? And I had no idea because I hadn't seen these episodes. But boy, was that just a holy shit moment. It was like, okay, this can't happen. I don't remember Kristen dying in season 5.
It's a true holy shit moment.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Tom, any memories?
Listen, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but this was just another episode for me to get through. It wasn't like there was any time off. Like, it's 100th episode for everybody, which means it's more entertaining for the actor because there's more to play. But the next day I was on another episode.
Yeah, true. It's like back to work.
That's reality.
Back to the grind.
Yeah.
Believing Lana's death to be the doing of Jor-El's prophecy, Clark heads to his Fortress of Solitude to confront his deadbeat daddy. Clark believes that had he not shared his secret with Lana, that she would still be alive, and in a desperate plea to save her, Clark accepts an unknown trial from Jor-El, even though it will cause some sort of equally heartbreaking butterfly effect.
After grabbing the crystal, Clark returns back to the opening of the episode, and he's joined by Lana and James Blunt, as we've discussed. Understanding the ramifications of what will happen if he shares his secret, this time Clark decides to once again flake on their mystery date and proposal and future together, and Lana knows he's lying and tells him to say something because she's giving up on him. Say something. Say something. Clark heads back to the Daily Planet this time to tell Chloe that like The Sopranos, he and Lana are over. He explains the Groundhog Day situation and proves it by predicting chaotic scenes in the newsroom instead of letting Clark. And I really like this. That was cool. I wasn't expecting that. And then you get to see.
Well, the first time I saw it, there were so many random things happening. I was like, and then when it clicked. But it was like, yeah, like the guy gets fired. It was like, that's weird.
It was cool, though.
The call, yeah.
It worked.
It totally works.
Instead of letting Clark settle for being heartbroken, Chloe tries to tell him that all that means is that he can protect Lana from Lex and then live happily ever after. And on edge, Clark heads to the Talon for the Kent Senate celebration. This time he notices Lois is missing and heads into the loft to find her. However, this time her product placement promo causes her to fall and get knocked out. Clark rescues her before she can get electrocuted. Seemingly, Clark will now have to run around saving different loved ones before one meets their ultimate end or untimely end. Yes.
I would imagine, Tom, that they have to film both scenes back to back. Like you have to do the one before the time switch and then the times switch.
If it's the same location, they filmed it the same day. Yeah.
Yep.
So just a longer day for you.
Just a longer day for Tom.
I don't know about longer. There was no such thing as longer.
You were
They
just
were all
there.
long.
That's the
It
thing
was
with
just-
Tom. When you're there, he's like, I'm here
Your
for
family.
12 to 14 hours. And so they can do whatever they want because they're going to keep me here all day. Tom never expected to leave early. Tom never said, oh, after this, if we can get done with this scene quickly. He didn't care.
No.
It was like, I'm here to work. There was no, like, I'm going to get off and go see a movie with the rest of us.
No.
It was, that's how it was. Similar to the last timeline, Jonathan Kent gets a congratulatory phone call that causes him to leave. This time we find out who it is. Lionel Luthor, who wants to play puppeteer now that his funding has won the race. And one thing that hasn't
we
changed.
all knew this was going to happen, and I love that it did happen.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
Lana pays Lex a visit. However, this time Lex helps pick up the pieces after her recent breakup. And by pick up the pieces, we mean telling Lana that Clark will never change and planning a kiss on her. And Lex tries to blame it on the alcohol and pursues after her as she drives off. And yeah.
Back at the Talon, as the party surrounds Lois's medical send-off, Clark gets news that Lana is AWOL and fears that the same car crash is going to repeat. To prevent the death of his ex-girlfriend, Clark superspeeds onto the highway and provides the emergency brakes to a bus full of children before it can T-bone her.
And then we have the big scene.
Jonathan Kent returns to the Kent farm and is greeted by his top donor.
Lionel Luthor.
Jonathan is adamant about repaying his debt with his fists as he throws Lionel around like a rag doll and immediately commits his first crime as a politician. Whoops. During the scuffle, Lionel reveals that he knows all about Jonathan's super son. As Jonathan politely escorts him out, we see him falling short on breath and exhibiting a heart attack.
How long do you think Lionel has known? It's pretty
That's the long game.
It's a long.
Yeah.
He's playing a long game because, like, I think this is the first time he said it, and a couple of times he's tried to like lean on Chloe and this and that. Like, what's he waiting for? Maybe
Yeah.
this moment. That's what he's waiting for.
But Martha and Clark return home only to find Jonathan falling to his knees, and they rush to his aid, but it's too late. The prophecy is fulfilled, and Clark has traded one life for another. This was emotional, but a little underwhelming when you compare it to others like Alicia. I mean, that was a real emotional moment. This wasn't as emotional, but I think, it was still pretty emotional. And I think we're going to see more and more emotion and how it lingers and how it affects Clark throughout the episodes and years.
I did Google Jonathan Kent deaths because it's happened in every single Superman. The top 5 Clark Kent or Jonathan Kent deaths. This was number 1
Number 1.
on ifanboy.com.
We cut to a later day and see Clark and Martha preparing for the funeral. Martha tries to console her son, telling him not to blame himself and emotionally sharing how proud they both are of the man he is becoming. They head to a snow-fallen funeral, which was absolutely gorgeous. I think I've shown you, I have footage of that funeral scene, and I put a video together with music. I have to show you. You've never seen it?
No.
It's great. I have to find that. It's so good, Tom. It's like, it's funny and it's cool. But everyone leaves somberly. Lex watches from a distance. Lionel makes his move on Martha, and Clark stoically covers his father's casket with dirt.
Well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that the set itself is you have all these cast members together who are very rarely together. And when the camera's not rolling, we're actually all having a great time. And then they're like, okay, guys, knock it off. Time to shoot. And it's like, yeah, but no. Get on your, we're actually having a good time.
Yeah.
It's just on camera, we have to play the emotion.
Closing thoughts. Thoughts on the fallout coming from this between Clark and Lex. It was
Bound
it
to
just
happen.
adds fuel to the fire. It's just another step in that sort of evolution of Lex becoming evil and Clark going the other way. And so it's sad. And obviously there's still remnants of like love and respect. Lex shows up to the funeral. Predictions for how many more episodes we get without a Freak of the Week. I'm guessing the next one will be Freak of the Week. Overall thoughts on the send off of a main cast member. It's the first time, except I guess Whitney and then Sam, but this was bigger because this was such an integral part of Clark's life and the show. That father figure, that love, that unconditional, unadulterated, just pure love, and it was the most impactful for sure. Interesting things to note. Clark crushing coal into diamonds pays homage to Superman doing it in the comics. Jonathan's funeral. What?
Yeah, but all I can think about is why didn't Clark make diamonds out of coal for his dad to pay for his campaign?
Yeah, you're so right. Clark, you dropped the ball. Jonathan's funeral is the only scene in the entire season to include every main character. there is a season 5 DVD cutscene where Clark pleads with Jor-El to bring Jonathan back, but Jor-El does not respond, and Clark tearfully apologizes to Jonathan. This episode marks the last newly filmed, not reused footage of the Kawachi Caves. You thought that, one big guest was enough for this special 100th episode, but not so. We've got our good friend, dear friend, great director, amazing mind, a lot of fun to work with, my favorite of all time, Greg Beeman. Greg, how are you?
I'm amazing, Michael. Tom, nice to see you.
Wonderful to see you.
You look like Jack Nicholson, day 20. Wendy,
No,
darling.
It's been rough.
You look like Johnny Cash in the good days.
No, you look good, but
Yeah.
why is it rough?
I'm like kind of mostly retired now, so
Why are you retired?
it's what I wanted to do.
Do you
So
miss
I
it?
had I ran my run. No, I don't miss it at all. I direct a couple of MOWs a year now. Take about 8 months off.
Well,
Well, I
we're
wouldn't
still
know-
going to hire you to come and
We
direct our
would
thing.
we wouldn't know because we have not been invited to be in any of those MOWs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to work on that.
Greg, Reckoning was a monster of an episode, and there's so many things to talk about, but how tough was it and how much stress was it to direct an episode like this?
Oh, I don't remember it being stressful at all, other than, the same as all of them. For me, the reason I wanted to be here today, this is, my last chance to be on this show, because after I made a promise to Miles and Al and to Peter Roth, the president of the studio, that I'd stay on the show for 100 episodes. When I was renegotiating my contract in season 3, it was sort of like a handshake promise that I had to make. So I left. I was on from episode 3, and then after episode 101, I was gone. I went off to direct the Aquaman pilot, and then I went off to other events. So this was like my big swan song. But it was so well written. It was so well conceived. Everyone, 100th episodes of any TV show, everyone kind of, suits up for, right? Like the writers know they have to be great, and there's this expectation that they have to be great.
Well, it's one of those episodes where, and this is a very simple way of saying it, you don't know Smallville unless you've seen this episode. Like there's a handful of episodes. If you don't see them, you don't know what the show's about. And this show, I know this sounds corny. If you don't see this episode, like if you skip this episode, you have no idea what's going on after this.
Well, of course, I think originally Miles and Al were hoping it would get to 100 episodes. No one thought.
Yeah,
that was the limit of our ability to see the horizon, all of us, But in retrospect, I now realize that my role on the show, because I was there, right? You guys know I was there every episode. I was there every week. When I wasn't directing, I was supervising all the other directors, and I realized that what my role was on the show was kind of building the culture, I guess, the culture of the production, what the vibe was on set, and what the vibe of making the show was, and kind of, making sure quality control, right?
Yeah.
And now that the show went 10 years, and it went in different directions than anyone could have anticipated at the beginning. Maybe it became a little more superhero-ish, right? So I kind of realized my role was taking Clark and Lex from the beginning to this episode, really, to the death of Jonathan. It's a turning point in the characters' lives. This episode is a real turning point. And so, from my point of view, I always saw the show as like a myth, right? It's funny because I've seen episodes of Talkville, and like, I don't get that worked up about the odd, crappy episode. That to me, like, it's a myth. It's a big story. I saw it as a meta thing, right? It was. It's the journey of the hero and the journey of the anti-hero, right? Like,
yeah.
So that was always my focus. My focus was always on the big story, the big picture, the big journey of Clark and Lex in their opposite journeys, right? The guy with the great family who had to become a hero, and the guy with the bad family who had to become a villain. And in a weird way, I think Clark didn't want to become a hero, and I don't think Lex wanted to become a villain. It was kind of destiny. And I was always really interested in the idea that Clark is kind of like the last temptation of Christ. He, by being the savior of the world, he didn't really he wasn't able to participate in the world. Right? He couldn't have Lana. He couldn't be really friends with people. He was lonely. It's a lonely job being the savior of the world. And then, of course, after this episode, things change, and then Clark and Lois's relationship kind of comes to the front slowly.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I'm happy that my journey was from episode 3 to episode 100.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for me, and you guys can edit this out, but I mean this sincerely. For me, when you came on and we talked about even in Hothead years ago, where you went to Alan Miles, you're like, I know how to do this show. Like, let me do this show. And I needed this at the time because I didn't know any better, but I knew everything. I didn't have to be scared because you were there, if you know what I mean. And I do know that once you left, looking back, I think there was an extra element of like,
not trusting.
Let me just make sure I'm okay. And I didn't have to do that when you were there.
Yeah. I feel
and not
the same
that it
way.
was the end of the world, but like everybody knew if Beeman was there, everything was going to be okay.
Yes. And I think that's why they they let him run the show, because there was such a great respect. And also you were unlike any other director, because I'm not saying that the other directors didn't have balls, but you did. And what I mean by that is you would say, I want this shot to look like this. I don't want them to have a close-up of this. I want to take a oneer and I want to find this, and they can't cut around it because it's one shot, and then we'll go into coverage. And I want this shot. And it was deliberate, and you weren't doing it out of spite. You were doing it because it made sense and it was cool and it worked. And not a lot of directors would do that. And you took risks, and they liked that.
I remember being on set and seeing first ADs or other people saying, yeah, but, and you're like, I know, thank you, I know, I hear you, thank you, but this is what we're doing.
Yeah, you went to the beat of your own drum, and I always appreciated it, and I looked up to it, and I learned a lot from it. But let me ask you this. Let's go back to Reckoning, and you can just say thank you. I know you're like very appreciative.
I am. I know it's sweet. Look, I really mean it. Like, now that it's been, I came on in 2002, right? And I left in 2007. Now it's 2024. This is the highlight of my career. It was I look back on everything I've done. This is the fondest, I think, because I really felt like it was such a family, and I really did feel like I was nurturing your guys and your guys' careers. And frankly, Tom, to what you just said, much like if this is when I left, after this episode, you were ready to run on your own. You didn't, both you guys, right? But Tom was less experienced as an actor. I think at this point you were ready to take the ball, and you started directing yourself real shortly after this, right? Like the next season.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you too.
I mean,
right?
Listen, we don't have to go into detail, but I remember there was a situation where it was a Rolling Stone cover story that we were supposed to do for publicity, and I said no. And I remember you took the time out of production, and you took me aside. My dog was running with somebody's dog, and you took the time to talk to me and give me some perspective that, I still use to this day. We don't have to go into detail about the conversation. Basically, you were just like, hey, let me just tell you about me, meaning you, and my career, and let me help you with sort of what you're looking at right now. And to this day, I think about that often. So thank you. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. I'm like, hey, you should do it.
Yeah.
Reckoning. How, we talked to Al, and he says Beeman would have more insight on this. What was it like directing Schneider, knowing this was a pivotal, big moment where he knew he was going to die? Yeah,
I mean, everyone knew it was coming, right? Like, John Schneider knew from the time he took the job that his character doesn't survive this, the mythos of Smallville.
He was upset when they told him at the beginning of the season that he was going to die.
Well, it's funny. He was a lot like me. Now, I was choosing to leave, and he, it was his character's time had come, but it made it more emotional. I think it made his role stronger. I mean, he knew he was fighting. He knew that he wasn't going to be on the show forever, because the character doesn't live into the Superman years. He didn't necessarily know when it was going to happen, but he didn't want to leave the show. He loved it, I think it informed his performance. It's a great performance. I really think he put his heart into it. And then ironically, I came back and directed the series finale and the season 9 finale, and he came back and as a ghost and appeared in more episodes. Anyway, so it wasn't really the end for us. Who knew?
Yes, but Greg, when you're directing those scenes, I always thought that right when he dies, was there a moment where he talks to Clark and talks to Martha, or was that never written? Because I love how it just ended where he gives a look to each of them and dies. So was there more dialogue that was eventually cut out?
I don't remember. I don't think so. Do you think so, Tom? I don't remember that. No,
I don't remember as well.
I think it was how it was such a tight script,
Yeah.
There may have been a little.
The thing is, I remember
this in there.
Ironically, because it was John Glover, who normally was just, I never even had to think about his performance in that scene where he came in and was taunting Jonathan and kind of induced his heart attack. John had a little bit of trouble with that scene. He was nervous. I don't know why. I just remember like, oh, this is weird. Schneider was fine. And I remember Glover was like a little anxious and nervous about that scene. And I kind of remember having to like hold his hand and go like, it's okay. Yeah, you're good. Everything's great.
Right.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
I think everyone, and I know Annette was really sad. Annette was really sad in that scene where he dies. It was
There's a lot of physicality in that scene between John and John. And in some ways he gets thrown down to the ground, but it's all in service of the story. And so maybe that was part of like, why am I doing this? But I don't know.
Hey, Greg, how is it that you have this innate ability to see something through the lens and say, good, moving on, where a lot of directors don't? They keep filming it over and over to make sure they have it. And you always, I always felt like if it was take 2 and we got it, moving on. Like you were so confident. Is that something through experience, or is it, it's a brave thing to do, on a show.
I guess it is, they have that theory of like the 10,000 hours, right? Like what's that book? It's called Outliers. And it's one of the reasons that the Beatles were so great is because they played every single night 2 sets in Germany for like 2 years. And so they got, the theory was after you do something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it. And, I started directing when I was 23 years old doing, and I directed your favorite movie, License to Drive, when I was like 27. So, I somewhere in the middle of Smallville, I feel like I got the 10,000 hours. And, like I look at things very technically in a way. Like if I print take 2 and move on, I'm going to get more time for the next shot. I'll get more shots at the end of the day, or I'll get more time to do the shots I want to do right. I do have the innate ability, which not everybody, since I've supervised so many other directors, I now know that I can see, I really can, if I can walk into a room and I can imagine it from every point of view. Not everybody can do that. And I can see it edited. I can see it edited before it's edited. So I know what pieces of film we need and what pieces of film we don't need. And
you knew where you were going to be. So like the idea of shooting a master of the Kent of inside the barn and spending 5 minutes to see the whole thing, you were one of the ones who were like, once we get the crane shot, we establish this wide shot, cut. You know what I mean? Like why are we doing that? We're never going to be in this wide shot.
Because we're going to be on that for very little time.
If I could teach other people to do that, I would. I know Glenn Winter, who kind of was my protege, is also like that, right? I think he saw that I did that and he learned that you can do that. I think a lot of people just aren't confident that you won't get in trouble if you don't do it. But the fact of the matter is you won't get in trouble if it turns out good. That's really the bottom line. If you feel confident that it's not well, then no one is monitoring whether you do a million pieces of coverage. They watch the director's cut, and if they're happy with it, nobody goes back and says, how come he didn't get more coverage?
But there were some moments I remember where you're like, Alan Miles are going to chew my ear off. They're not going to be happy with me. And there were battles to be had. And they're like, because you would go your own way sometimes. And those were,
that was never on set. You never brought that to set.
But Beeman would tell me, he's like, oh man, because Beeman and I were writing a pilot and we wrote a script together. And I just remember being with him a lot and him going, oh, I don't want to get this call. I don't want to answer this, because they're going to say, because look,
again, in retro, they were my first showrunners, right? And the first guys that I worked for. And now again, 20 years later, I realized how great they were, how much they trusted me, and how clear they were in what made them happy and what made them not happy. So, and they knew what they wanted the show to be like. They were very clear. I certainly added style and some techniques that we used, and I think I helped you guys learn to be better actors. But not you.
Absolutely.
You were already great.
Thank you.
But I mean, a lot of the cast was very inexperienced, right? If you take it from Tom, and it was more or less his first job, like
your lead was the least experienced person on set. Even
exactly.
Kristen had more experience.
Kristen was kind of second. Allison was pretty experienced, and then John Glover was like a Tony Award-winning actor. So it was such a range of abilities that I had to work with. But I don't know, it just felt like a family. It still feels like a family to me. I'm so proud of. Look at the fact that you guys have this podcast, a show that ended more than 10 years ago, and how many people tune in every week to watch it, right? And
a lot of people. It's pretty amazing.
And there's like 35,000 people on Reddit on some Smallville link. I know. So the show still resonates for people. 12 years later, you guys do conventions all the time. So not every show in the world, even successful shows that run for years, don't have the experience of having an afterlife.
What was it about Reckoning? Was Reckoning your favorite episode to direct out of all of them?
Yeah, I think. It was like I knew it was the end, and I knew it had to be great, and there was things like I really, really wanted that funeral in the snow to be great, and the idea of shooting in slow motion. I wanted the car crash to be great. It's funny. There's such little moments in this. Like one of my favorite moments in the show is when Lana's car is crashed and you're freaking out, Michael. And then Clark comes out of super speed, like right in front of you. And it's just a simple shot. Like it's just a lock off shot. There's nothing fancy about the shot, but he just comes out of super speed right in front of you. And his expression, he doesn't see you. And he doesn't know that you can see him. And both of you have such awesome expressions. Like Clark's expression is like, oh my God, Lana has died in a car crash. And your expression is like, what the hell was that? Like you saw the secret, right?
Yeah.
I love that moment. It's maybe my favorite moment in the show. I just love that moment. And of course,
isn't it amazing how a little moment like that, where it's so fast, but you see both characters and what they're thinking, and everything in that small moment without doing anything else.
It's also not, let's do 5 different versions of close-ups between the two looking over each other's shoulders so we can figure out this moment in post.
No, you're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right. I think it's better this way, right?
Look, Greg, we love you. We've taken a lot of your time, but this has been extraordinary. I love the inside. I love the inside scoop. You were, to me, you were just as important as any actor on the show. Having you there, for me, selfishly, my performance, my confidence level, having fun on set. It was everything you dream of, as a kid. And you gave all of it. So I thank you dearly for not only being a great friend, but just a great mentor and awesome person.
Bring me back because when I left after this episode, I had no idea, but they brought me back to direct the final episode of the series,
and we reunited. I said
the same thing to you that I kind of said. I said to Tom, you really should come do this.
All right, we love you, buddy. Take care of yourself, and we're going to bring you back, and we'll be keeping in touch.
Episode 212, the finale.
You got it. Time for the hotline. Let's do it. Now, these are the questions I've been waiting for. So let's go to it. Charlie, patron privilege. We're going to go to patron privilege, patreon.com/talkville to join. You get to ask questions. Come on. You get to support the show. Come on. Here we go. Here's Charlie. We love Charlie. We love our Charlie. He's a sweet.
Hi, guys. The long-awaited episode that every superhero fan knows is going to come. My question is, Michael, I know you've had stories with John Schneider behind the scenes with getting in the Duke car and everything like that. Tom, you've been working with, up until this point, Schneider since the pilot. How emotional was this day? Amazing performances all around. Better get 3 roses.
I wasn't. Thanks, Charlie. I wasn't there and didn't work with Jonathan, so I didn't get to send him off. But I remember I gave him a hug and I said, "Hey, it was an absolute joy working with you, and it was a sweet moment." But Tom, did you get a moment with John?
I mean, listen, the character was dying, but John Schneider wasn't. I think there was more pressure on the day, because there's like this thing you have to get with the camera. You have to get this emotionality through the lens. And so there's a lot of pressure to it. But I don't remember really anybody being sad.
Yeah. No,
This
sense.
is patron Kristen B. For the episode Reckoning, do you think Lana's outcome would be different if Clark had just told her his secret and not proposed? Thanks, guys.
I like the way that they did it. He kind of like showed her some of his abilities, and the drama has to be there. If he was just like, "Hey, here's the deal. I'm from Krypton. Kryptonite really hurts. I can do all these things. I can't fly yet, but I'm pretty sure I can. Like, will you marry me?" That's boring.
You're right.
I think you need all these moments.
This is why I'm afraid to bone you.
Ryan, his one comment.
Hey,
I know
this is
Ryan's
Ed
favorite
Pogue
scene.
calling from Ohio, and I'm a little curious. With the death of Jonathan in this episode, through the years after it has aired, have you found yourself emotionally connected to this moment more so than you did at that time?
Yeah, you know what? Watching this for the first time, I was emotional. I got a little emotional from it. It hit me, and I had never seen it, but maybe I did see it because there was a party for it, so maybe I did watch the episode. But it definitely had an impact on me now. Tom, did it have an impact on you, Ryan?
I don't think I was brought to tears, but I thought it was well executed.
Yeah, no, it was. I really liked it. I mean, I think that this was emotional.
It was pivotal.
Hi, this is Tori Schubel from Wisconsin calling about season 5, episode 12, Reckoning. I remember the first time I watched this episode with my best friends in college, one who has passed tragically in a car accident like Lana. This was one of the most impactful episodes for me, and I remember my reaction the first time seeing it with my friend. Shout out to him. His name was Eric, and being shocked, devastated, and in disbelief about Lana dying. Watching it back, it had new meaning for me and obviously was very emotional. So my question is for Tom. How did you prepare for this scene in particular where Lana dies in a horrific car accident? Did you draw from any type of loss in your own life? How difficult was that? Thank you guys so much. Love you. Always
Thanks,
hold on
Tori,
to
you
Smallville.
rock.
Years ago, a friend of mine who you guys probably know, Andy Garcia, we were talking, and acting is a process. And describing your process, it's a
almost
dead end
impossible.
street a lot of times because there's no way you can express it. So I will say that what you want to do in these scenes is go in not playing the end of the scene first and trying to isolate moments that brings your character's emotionality forward.
That's smart.
Because we've all read the script. We all know what happens at the end of the scene, but you can't just do that right away. So it's a lot of it's disbelief. A lot of it's like, there's no way this can happen. And you made a joke about Alicia. The Alicia thing was more like, for Clark, she's dead. This happened. Oh my God, it's over. Where for Jonathan, it's what just happened. Now he's here. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? So that is the different level of it.
Yeah.
But the actual process, it's impossible to answer that question other than be available for the emotion. And
Yeah.
the fact that Annette was there is helpful too.
Oh God.
And we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Tom. This is Sean from Indiana. In that episode, we watched Lana die horribly. And we also, at the end of that, watched Jonathan die. And, growing, I would think I was 7 when this came out, and I always kind of assumed we would watch Lana die on the show to make way for Lois. And also the death kind of feels cheated because we get her back at the end of the episode. And not only that, but Clark essentially sacrifices his dad unknowingly for a girlfriend who breaks up with him, or he breaks up with a few episodes later. If you could go back and change it, would you have rather they had kept Lana's character dead and kept Jonathan on the show longer, or do you prefer it with Jonathan's passing and then Lana's character continuing on the show?
Yeah, well, that's a good I don't know. That's too hard to say. I mean, Jonathan Kent dying is part of the comic books. It's part of the mythology. And Lana's isn't, I don't think. So it just is more, it's more impactful for Jonathan to die because of what it really does. This father figure. And you know, in the story with Jor-El, and I just think it's more profound than, you know, killing off Lana. Here we go. This is Dan. We're gonna go to Dan. Big Dan. Hey Dan, how are you, buddy?
Hey guys, this is Dan from McHenry, Illinois. What a ride, to say the least. Did you guys pick up on the fact that Lois was supposed to die instead of Jonathan in the second version of the chain of events that happened? When she was supposed to get electrocuted, that would have taken the place of someone that Clark loves, which also indirectly confirms that Clark loves Lois a little bit. Tom, I'm going to give you a massive shout out in the next episode too, because you're acting this episode and the next one, dude, phenomenal, to say the least. You are killing it this season, man. Same with you, Michael.
Thanks,
Brian,
Dan.
hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. Thanks,
You
buddy.
rock,
Bye.
Dan. Thank you, man.
I think Clark would have tried to save Lois if she was in duress in any episode. I don't know if this is the one that should. I think the fact that she has Clark's attention from the beginning and brings out this sort of comedic back and forth. I think the moment Lois appears is the beginning of it. That's
here's
my
the text
long-winded
question,
answer.
Amy. How many takes, Tom, did it take to shed tears in the Lana scene?
One.
Was it?
Probably. I mean, I'm not waiting for. I mean, it's not like I can't. There's no way you can say that like, Tom always waits to the third or fourth take to be ready. I'm not that guy.
It's whenever it happens.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Haley, or Heli, did Clark make the right choice? Tom?
Yes.
He did.
It's good TV.
Yeah. I think it wasn't a choice of hit. Like, I think Jonathan was going to die no matter what, and that was going to happen. So,
I mean, Clark doesn't know that. But
yeah, Clark doesn't know that. All he wants to do is the situation at hand. How do I handle this? How do I save this person now? And he doesn't realize that by doing that, somebody else is going to be, you know, taken from him. So he sacrifices one for another, but he doesn't know who it is. And it could be his mom. It could be his, you know, who knows? And so, you know, if you could say in a moment, if I could save my dog Blanche, I would. But then if all of a sudden the next day they took my other dog,
then they take Ryan.
I wouldn't. They take Ryan. Rosenbaum rating system. I think it's pretty easy for me.
Rosenbaum rating.
Ryan?
3.
3.
I'm going
Michael?
3.
I'm going to go 3.
Ugh. I mean, I was on the fence about it. 3 is fine.
No, if you want to go 2.5 roses.
No, it's good. This is like I said, this speaks for itself.
I'm going 3 because I'm not sure that it gets better than this for the rest of the run.
It may
It
not.
probably doesn't.
It may not.
Probably does.
Based on the conversations we had today.
You're thinking the red blue blur, which you've never seen, so you don't know, but I know.
No, there's
Trust
some
me,
good
it's not
stuff.
better
Like
than
there's.
this.
I think there'll be good episodes, but I don't know if this might be the peak. I know they've talked. I've heard patrons talk about like a favorite episode in the next season, but
There's some unbelievable moments coming up, but yeah, this is. We'll see. We'll see. Death and save count. How many people
Death
got
and
saved?
save
Well,
count.
1 dead. Jonathan Kent dies. 2 saved. Clark saves Lana. Clark saves Lois. 12 episodes, 26 dead, 24 saved. Series 162 dead, 171 saved. Ryan's favorite scene. This is going to be tough.
This is
Because we're all
tough.
thinking it's going to be Jonathan dying, but maybe
Ryan, you
it's
can't
something
look at
else.
Michael. You can't look at Michael while you read this. I don't want any signs.
He doesn't give
between
me
you two.
anything.
I don't give him any. I'm
Nah,
not
you
giving
say
anybody
that.
anything. I'm not giving anyone anything. All right. Scene 1, the opening where Clark proposes to Lana. Scene 2, the first time Lana dies, or I guess the only time Lana dies. The first car crash, I'll say. And scene 3, funeral.
Scene 3, funeral, not Jonathan dying, or is that part
No.
of it? Okay, so it's
No,
a
it's not
funeral.
part of it, yeah.
So it's the funeral,
Funeral, first car crash, and proposal.
yeah, that car crash was unbelievable.
I'm going 3.
And what was the third one again?
Third one was the funeral.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so emotional. I mean, that's the biggest scene of the show. I'll go with funeral.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
What'd you choose?
No, 3. Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
chose 3, but I was trying to like figure out why, because like I think I've given it to a funeral scene before, but they're powerful, man, and the slow motion and the snow, And it also just sort of because there were a lot of good scenes in this episode, but I think that one sort of just like tied it all together.
Yeah.
And you're
I
like,
agree.
this is where it ends. It's hard to give it to one before that, the
True.
conclusion of it.
I also want to plug Tom's movie. Tom, tell us about the new movie.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it came out today called Mafia Wars. I'm a good cop undercover doing bad things in Rome. We shot it about a year and a half ago in Rome. It's beautiful. I just watched the trailer literally today, and even my wife
What's
wants
it
to watch
called?
it. So, Mafia Wars. Yeah,
Go
you.
see it. Please go see it. And yeah, that's fantastic, dude. Did you have a good time doing it?
I had a great time. I loved it. And maybe, I mean, Scott, who directed it, him and I became like really fast buddies. You'd love him. And I'm just like, what do you want to do next? Like, let's do something else together. He's the great guy.
That's it for the episode. What a terrific episode. I hope you enjoyed Greg Beeman and Al Gough.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for coming on. It meant the world to us. And that really, I think this episode of Talkville will go down as one of the better ones for both those guys being on and talking so openly and frankly about the show. And I hope you really enjoyed it. And again, support us by joining Patreon, giving back, patreon.com/Talkville. I really thank everybody. Ryan, thanks for being here. Tommy, next episode, season 5, episode 13, Vengeance. Let's take the discussion online. Let us know your thoughts on the episode over on our socials at Talkville Podcast or Talkville Pod. Show the support again by joining Patreon, patreon.com/Talkville. And all the merch and all that stuff is in the show's description. And yeah, we love you. Remember, folks, always hold on to Smallville. All right, Tommy, now it's time for the most important part of the podcast, our patron shout-outs, top tiers, who we love and give back to the show. Join them, patreon.com/Talkville, and you could be a guest on Talkville. Here we go. Leanne P., Raj C., Santiago M., Thomas Tom Turner, Shane W., Sophie M., Betsy D., Abby P., Ray Harada, Karen Apple M., 99 more, Lalani N.
Brett G., always hold on to Smallville. Esteban G., Charlie T., Garrett W., Bob K. Still taking the AG1, buddy? Kylie H., Tom N.,
Kyle,
Jason W., Osama A., and Lana Ramsey Banana.
Nancy D., Brian G., YVR Grips, Amanda R., Teddy 127, Michael P., Ryan R., Jordan M., Randy B., Craig G., Jorel, Heather, and Greg. I made Talkville say butts.
Brian H., Eric K., Kristen B., Jeff, and Nan Weber. Exclamation point. Darth Achilles, Finky, Early is on time, Miss Clark Kent. Damn, who's that? Jeanette E., Deadvid, General Zod, sorry. Theodore, Jam and J, Doug R., Carlos C., Tommy Z. Boston, 68. Ken, the Limerick guy, Corey L., and Mr. Home Arcade.
Claire M., D. Brown, Karen Era M., Jules M., Eldon Supremo, Leslie V., Brian P. McBurts, Ginger Moose, Christoph S., Michelle M., Amanda Lynn, Jessica B., Michael Knight Rider, Michael Caine doesn't think. Michael Caine doesn't blink. Tom?
Michael Caine doesn't blink.
Michael Caine
Sebastian
doesn't
F.,
blink.
Wolfie always in the house.
Wolfie.
Matthew and Lincoln B.
Fellas.
Sorry, that was still funny that you said that. Briar, Charlene A., Mary Louise L., CGO, and Cindy C.
Nikki L., Shannon Fofana, Tina E., Matt Rick, Jen T., Randy S., Cassie B., Brad A., Felicia R., Danny Mo, Mirabelle, J.S., Mary K., Rachel D., Steve, and Nate Danger.
When you're rich, you aren't crazy, you're eccentric. And Rosenbaum fans, Sandy Sharman, thanks for that. Carrie Ann, the Alexander Castle, Daryl E., Jenny B., 76. Just be 76, Jenny. Anna B., Monica T., Jeffrey K., Pip Kenobi, Katya C., previously on Smallville, Keith B.,
Cookie K., the patron saint of Smallville, Libertaria, Danny Z. from Cleveland, Biagio C., Cal L., 38, Felicia B., the Salty Ham, Murphy C., David L., Madison H., Mika, Micah J., Tori H., Kelowna A., Zeb R., Z. Wicked Stepdad, My Pups Lex, Shelby Kara, Natalia, Dr. Jacia, the phrase that pays.
Dr. G and Dr. T. Good things you guys know each other. Krypton Knight, Brandon C., Ned L. I can never say this.
Flirtatious B.
That's it?
That's it.
Flirtatious B? Be flirtatious. Get it. Per 6, Kurian K., Naaman L., Smallville for Life, Bobby B., Bryce R, and Reese S.
Kara C, Pico Delgado, Kyle, or Kai W, Kai, Jay Burke, Kendrick F, Lindsay B, CC Storm, Stacy L, Ashley M, Go, Gasol, Melanie P. We love you guys. Couldn't do it without you. We'll see you next week. Tommy?
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure.